LinkedIn. I'm starting our role clarity week with a story, and I wanted to share this with you. We talk about role clarity. It was in the McKinsey report as one of the most critical management practices to build enterprise agility. So I'm talking to a founder, and we are talking about his organization in general, and he starts talking about how he doesn't believe in job descriptions. And as a coach, I'm like, okay, tell me more. And what he goes on to say is he doesn't want anyone to ever tell him that it's not their job. And so he has this very fluid level of expectations and figures that allows people the ability to go work on what they need to work on, frees up barriers. But as I dig in a little bit more and talk to him, what I also find is without roles and responsibilities and role clarity, that allows him to jump in at any level in any place in his organization and overturn a decision or question a decision, or just flat out make it without asking the person who is supposed to be in charge of that area. So what had happened in his culture by doing this is that most people didn't make a decision at all. They waited for him to make a decision because they weren't sure what their decision-making authority and scope was. And often when they made a decision, he would come over the top and change it. So it just led to, okay, well, I'm going to just sit back and wait for him to make the decision. And so he created this bottleneck of not just day-to-day decision-making, but of innovation as well. So moral of the story, right, is if you want innovation in your organization, people have to feel empowered. Agility requires networks of empowered teams. And so those teams and those individuals have to know what their decision-making authority is, whether it's a dollar amount or within their scope. Otherwise, that leads to paralysis. And another thing I've heard people say is, if everyone owns it, no one does. So one way to think about this as a leader and to determine whether your team or yourself have proper decision-making lines, like they know what the scope is, they know what the magnitude from a dollar's perspective is to start checking your emails. If you have a lot of email threads going on that are basically group discussions about decisions, and I'm not talking about healthy collaboration where you want multidisciplinary input so you get a better outcome. I'm talking about somebody in facilities should have made this call, but they're asking 3 other people for input because they don't feel either empowered to make the call or they're nervous about making the call. And so they're asking for everybody else's input because then they have the cover of a decision made by committee. Start looking through your emails of where your teammates or team members or others in your organization are driving decisions through email or even meetings that should be made by them or by somebody else in the company. If that behavior is going on, then you can bet you have some role clarity concerns that you could go address. And maybe some of that is to start asking, like, why is this decision up for discussion and why haven't you just made it? And figure out what it is. If it's a role clarity issue, it may be something else. It may be that they are, risk averse and they don't want to make the decision because they don't want to be held accountable if it's wrong. But often it's about, well, I'm not really sure if I'm empowered to make that decision. And so that's something that you as a leader then can start defining. Here's the decisions within your scope. Here's the decisions from a dollar amount. However it works in your organization or however you want to define it, start specifically looking at decision-making authority and responsibility for each role and putting it down in writing. And then as those people step up and start making those decisions, make sure that you're reinforcing it positively, even when they make a mistake, because it's going to happen. Reward them for the risk and let them feel that kind of empowerment so they feel more able to make innovative decisions and aren't locked waiting for someone else to make a decision or looking for a decision by committee. So that's the story about role clarity today. I hope you found it useful. I look forward to talking about role clarity with the rest of the week.